Now we have Miss Deepa Kiranji with us, and she will be speaking on Katha and Contemplation Mahiṣāsura Mardinī. Ms. Deepa Kiranji is the founder of Story Arts Foundation, professional storyteller, art-based educationalist, TEDx speaker, writer, and actor. Currently pursuing her PhD at IIT Madras, she performs around the world in her distinctive style of music and movement woman. Multilingual storytelling performances inspired by oral traditions of India. She has reached over 75,000 teachers globally as an educationalist. She is associated with Ministry of Culture, IIT Madras, and Annapurna College of Film and Media, and among many others. She recently acted in Rimi, a Dada Saab Phalke award-winning short film to 2021 in Hindi. This Is My Home is her first documentary, and it is selected for screening at Mumbai International Film Festival 2022. She has received honors such as National Award from Government of India for Best E-Content in Educational Videos for Teachers, British Council ELTREP India Research Grant Award for Teachers Development, Best Actor Award, Wolf Film Festival, Italy, for protagonist role in Rimi. So we welcome you, Ms. Deepa ji, for your presentation. Ji.
Namaste. Thank you very much. Wonderful to be here with all of you. Before I begin, a very big thanks to Institute of Advanced Sciences and Vedic Science and Research Foundation and the organizers and the entire team for organizing this, for bringing us all together on such an auspicious occasion. I am looking forward to this little sharing. Come, listen, everybody. Just for you, I have a story. Sometimes nice and sometimes scary. Sometimes nice and sometimes scary. Just for you, I have a story. Come. Mahiṣāsura Mardinī Stotra. When we speak of the story of the Mahiṣāsura Mardinī Stotra, Aparna Atreya, who started very beautifully, took us into the details of how it comes from the Markandeya Purana. And this episode of the sharings, which form a slice of it, is known by different names: Devī-Mahātmyaṁ, or Sri Sri Chandi, or Devi Saptashati. In fact, it was a discussion with a friend where I was referring to Devī-Mahātmyaṁ and she was referring to it as Sri Sri Chandi, and we realized we're talking about the same stories, known by different names in different forms. Today, what I'm hoping to share is the third part of the story. Those of you who have been here from the start will know that Aparna covered two of the stories that Maharishi Medhas shared with King Suratha, a despondent, disappointed king who had lost everything: his kingdom, his people, his hope and faith, and with the merchant Samadhi, who, once again, a family man, had been cheated by his own wife, children, and the community that he trusted. In despair, they both came to Maharishi Medhas. And most aptly, like it always was done in the olden days, the oral traditions were harvested to help another understand life and living and one's own self. The tool of stories and the medium of narration of stories was constantly employed for this purpose. No wonder we have very rich oral traditions all across the country. Speaking of oral traditions that told the stories of the Devī-Mahātmyaṁ, some popular ones are the Yakshagana traditions from Karnataka. even till today, it is something we can take pride in, that even today the Yakshagana troops are narrating these stories, and of course other stories of Krishna and Sudama and many more. And it is very difficult to get a booking for a performance. The Yakshagana troops are booked for the next 5 years. That itself is an indicator of the value of Devī-Mahātmyaṁ, that there are people lined up and waiting even for 6th and 7th year just for the Katha Vachan. Again, this is Karnataka being South India. From East India, from Bengal, Purulia, we have the Chau, where once again, the Devī-Mahātmyaṁ is so beautifully depicted in colorful dance narratives. As a storyteller and one who loves to delve into the Indian traditions and collaborate with the traditional oral storytellers, I had to mention at least one or two of the traditions. There are so many more that tell the stories of the Devi. Here, for the purposes of time, I move on with this quick mention. The purpose of any Katha Vachan is for the Katha Vachak, the storyteller, and the Shrota, the listener, to both be reminded of the stories. Like the saying of Arundhati Roy, the best stories are those that have no mystery at all. There is a great beauty and comfort in the familiarity, in the remembrance of these stories. So as I begin, a small chant. Ya Chandi Madhukaita Bhadi Daitya Dalani, Ya Mahishon Mulini, Ya Dhumrakshanak Chanda Munda Mathani, Ya Rakta Bijashani, Shakti Shumbha Nishumbha Daitya Dalani, Ya Siddhi Datri Para, Shadevi Navakoti Murti Shahita, Mampatu Vishveshwari. A very brief summing up of the stories, the 3 stories, which Maharishi Medhas had narrated. On that invocation, we begin. I must add that I'm really delighted to see a lot of familiar faces also here. It was wonderful hearing Aparna Atreya and the very knowledgeable, humble, and one who's very helpful in her sharing of knowledge, Dr. Madhavi Godbole, and excellent moderation by Aparna ji. Thank you very much. So here we begin. Quickly summing up, Aparna Atreya did tell us about the story 1. So again, just checking on your memory. I'm sure most of you remember that the story covered 2 people, Madhu and Kaitava, right? And their adventures, and how the tamasic nature of everything around, the sleepiness, the delusion of Madhu and Kaitava. And like we know, there are many versions. The version that I have encountered is how the other level of delusion was created by Mahamaya herself, who put the veil of pride in Madhu and Kaitava. Oh, we cannot be defeated by Vishnu. We are immortal. We are invincible. And it was that very delusion, once again, that sleepiness, that tamas, that made them give a boon to Vishnu. Delusion coming from pride. And the second story, where we heard the story of Mahishi, the great-grandson of Maharishi Kashyapa, one who was filled with anger for the injustice that had been done to his parents. And so much was the anger that it found different forms, whether it was a lion or an elephant or a buffalo, just like how we ourselves are, right? We imagine that we are angry with something or with someone. But there are moments that strike us that actually the anger and resentment is here. And they are just projections. We are shape-shifting onto different forms in a certain way. I remember when my sons used to live with me, there were times when they got good scoldings from me for forgetting to switch off the light and leaving it on in the room. After they had left, I found on a couple of occasions that I was leaving the light on in the rooms. Whom can I blame now? I was shifting my anger, my resentment onto others without even thinking twice. And that is what Mahishi was. Yet, in the form of the buffalo, when Devi rooted him down, where he could not move, he could not escape, he could not change into any other form, it was then that she was able to strike the trident through the buffalo. The story too, the second story completed, and everyone was hoping for peace to return, and it did. Until the disturbances and disharmony came in a new form this time. This time it was another demon. Because what are the demons? But of course, representation of the various qualities within us. Those dark qualities that we'd rather not see, we'd rather run away from. Mahishi, the anger, and the pride. Herein is the need for loading and taking everything. We have the Sharipu, of course, Kama, Krodha, Moha, Lobha, Mada, Matsarya. And all of these, the various demons, the Devi is coming to help with addressing. And so, we find Shumbha. Shumbha had conquered all of the gods. He had possessed all their wealth, all their privileges. He had appropriated their power and I am the strongest, I am the bravest, I am invincible and no one can do anything to me. Shumbha sat on his throne in his grand palace, which was surrounded by all his glittering stolen treasures. As Shumbha sat there, Chanda and Munda, his fawning servants, came to him with some very interesting news. Maharaj, Maharaj, Maharaj! They came running. Yes, what is it? We have some very exciting news. You know, we have seen the most beautiful, gorgeous, spellbounding woman ever. She lives up there in the Himalayas. And whom else can she belong to but you, the all-powerful, the all-strong, the all-wealthy? Of course, a jewel among women has to belong to you, of course, Maharaj. Chanda and Munda instigated the vanity of Shumbha. And Shumbha chose to go on this beautiful ride. But of course, he thought, I am all wealthy. I am all powerful. I am the one who is ruling the world. Of course, I should have this jewel among the women. And so it was his desire to get this woman in one way. And if that failed, another. If that failed, another. And if that failed, another. And that indeed is the nature of desire, pleasure. To conquer it and to get that which we want at any cost whatsoever. And so Shumbha sent Chanda and Munda with the marriage proposal to the Devi herself, who of course is the one they were speaking about. And ironically, they had no idea that it was the Devi they were speaking about. They went with very sweet words, trying to bid her into accepting the proposal, which of course was straight away rejected. Huh? Rejection? Something that Shumba had just not known. He had to try another plan, try another way to conquer the object of his desire, a jewel among women. And so this time he sent Sugriva, his assistant, who first attempted with his honeyed words. Dear woman, you will be the ideal for my lord, Shumba. He will treat you with the best of honors, with the best of life. Whatever you shall seek shall be yours. What more can you ask for? He tried all these honeyed words, and when they did not work, he came right down to harsh force and threatening. Dare you disobey the orders of my lord? If you do not agree, if I do not agree, then what? The Devi, of course, was absolutely unaffected by the threat. And when Sugriva was also destroyed by her, this time round, he sent one dim-witted Dhumralochana, who was meant to bring this woman. Even if she were kicking and screaming, he had to bring her. And so Dhumralochana went, imagining, oh, please do not, I will come, oh, somebody help me. He imagined this scene, but far from what he had imagined. What he encountered was a woman who, with just a smooth stroke, vanquished Dhumralochana. Now, all of this was way too much for Shumba to bear. And now, all he knew was, I have to conquer this vile woman. Chanda and Munda, off you go. Bring this vile woman at any cost. Notice the shift. Shumba had gone from this jewel among the women, one who is the object of my desire, one whom I need to possess at any cost, had shifted to something that was a show of will, abjugation of power, someone he had to conquer now, someone who had become a vile woman just because of his inability to get that which he wished. Chanda and Munda were sent not alone. With an entire army they went there. And this entire army was once again by the Devi, along with her forces who came together, destroyed completely. Chanda and Munda, Chamunda was the Devi who destroyed all of it, and then there remained just Shumba, of course, but also his sibling, his brother, Nishumba. Nishumba, who always tagged along. But before the Devi could handle Nishumba, and just after Chanda and Munda were destroyed, there seemed to be peace for a while. In that peace, in that apparent show of peace, something emerged, striking right into the battlefield. A very strange creature, Rakta Bija. Rakta Bija was a demon who had a very special boon. Each drop of blood that dropped from Rakta Bija onto the earth would immediately become an identical demon of his size and his features, another Rakta Bija. And so each time they attempted to fight with Rakta Bija, there were Rakta Bijas all over the battlefield. The Devi then brought forth Kali. an emaciated force, and she directed Kali to go around the battlefield, licking up every drop of blood that fell from Rakta Bija. That Kali went around with her red fiery eyes, licking up every drop of blood that dropped from Rakta Bija's body. She went around licking each and every drop until Rakta Bija was drained, completely drained of all of his blood. And not a drop remained to be licked anymore. Each drop of blood symbolic of desires within each one of us. As the desire lands on the earth, lands on this fertile mind of earth, it immediately grows into identical size. Each and every drop of desire grows. And it is only the ruthless process of licking up that drop, that desire, and nipping it in the bud that can help. With Rakta Bija destroyed, the Devi now took on the task of countering Shumba himself. But before that, the tag-along brother who never left Shumba ever alone, always came along with him in everything that Shumba did. Because Nishumbha really is the borrowed attributes of the self. The borrowed attributes of each one of us. For me, I begin with, for it is only me that I can speak of at this moment. The attributes of mother, attributes of daughter, attributes of a professional storyteller, different attributes that we keep picking along as we go, getting very excited by all these attributes, little realizing that these shadow along, tag along each and every time, and are only adding to the burden of knowledge of the self. A little realization that I possibly had of this, I can think of two occasions in my life in particular, is one, once I was no longer married, and then I had lost the identity or this borrowed attribute of wife. It helps you to step back and think about, if I'm not a wife, then who am I? 2 years ago, in the middle of the pandemic, for various reasons and a long story behind that, my teenage sons left home. And after 10 years of being a single mother, I'm a single mother, suddenly I found, yes, the children are away, but that made me think about the idea of, so now, do I still retain the identity of a mother? And if I don't, then what is me? What is not? Which of course is the larger purpose of myths, to mirror and to take us deeper to this fundamental question of who am I? So here was Nishumbha, the borrowed attributes, tugging along everywhere with Shumbha, never, 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 ever leaving his brother. The Devi, when she encountered Nishumbha and was ruthlessly slaying him, Nishumbha put on his best fight possible. He came out with 1,000 arms that sprouted 1,000 hands, trying to grasp and hold on to his life, to the Devi, to anything possible. And that is symbolic of our desperation. When it comes to having to let go, to be stripped of all these borrowed attributes, that is when we hold on to them the most, little realizing that we are bound exactly by that which we hold on to. That was Nishumbha's last fight, his 1,000 fighting arms. The Devi, of course, is even beyond that. Nishumbha was destroyed. And finally, she came to Shumbha. Shumbha, which was now the ego sense denuded of all borrowed attributes. This destruction of the ego sense by the Devi is no small occurrence, because what this symbolized was not just the destruction of Shumbha, not just destruction of the evil. It was indeed a victory, the truest victory, for that delusionary sense of self is lost. This is what the Maharishi Medhas narrates as he ends the third story of Devī-Mahātmyaṁ to King Suratha and the merchant Samadhi, with a hope that the story will unravel for them truths that they could reflect on, giving them the inspiration to go and pray to Devi, invoke her grace, invoke her blessings, which is exactly what Suratha and Samadhi did. Each one of them went on to pray to Devi and seek her grace and blessings. Finally, the Devi appeared to each one of them, and each one asked for what they wished and what they knew best to ask. King Suratha asked that his kingdom be restored, because that was important to him. But the merchant Samadhi had a very different boon that he asked from the Devi. And for this, I digress into another tiny story. There once lived a sadhu in the forest who was suddenly encountered with a merchant who came there and said, "Baba, help me. I have lost everything in life, my business, my family. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. I don't even know if I wish to live." The Baba said, "Go inside." The merchant looked around. He went further into the forest, and to his surprise, he found an entire sandalwood grove. Quickly, he started a sandalwood business, made lots of money, was back to his good old days in life. He returned to the Baba and said, "Thank you so much for your advice. I am in good space in life." Once again, the Baba said, "Go inside." What? This time the merchant went further deeper into the forest and found a mine from which he could bring out gold. What? Yes, of course. He turned into a gold merchant, another level of success. He returned to the sadhu after a few years and said, "You have turned around my life. I never imagined all this would happen." Once again, the sadhu said, "Go inside." The merchant could not believe what more he would find. He went further into the forest, and this time he found diamond. Yes. Oh, this is crazy. He became a diamond merchant, super successful, super wealthy. Again, after a few years, he came back to the Baba and said, "You've given me so much, from sandalwood merchant, from nothing to sandalwood merchant, to gold merchant, to diamond merchant, to where else now?" And the Baba said, "Go inside." The merchant began to walk into the forest. He thought about the sandalwood he had, the gold he had, the diamonds he had, and then he thought about the sadhu. He went back to the sadhu and said, "I don't want the sandalwood and the gold and the diamonds. I want to know What gives you this peace and contentment? And the sadhu said, go inside. And this time, the merchant understood that what was spoken of was not the forest around, but the forest within. And he chose to go deep inside, found his peace and contentment. So returning to the story of King Suratha and the merchant Samadhi, King Suratha had asked Devi for his kingdom, while the merchant Samadhi was a different person, having heard the stories and having invoked the blessings and prayed. And so he asked for knowledge. Knowledge that would dissolve the bondage of all worldly existence. That is what he asked for, and that is what he received. It is believed that Lord Rama, before Ravana Vad, was seeking the blessings of Devi herself. King Suratha had asked for the blessings in the Basanta Ritu, but much later, when Lord Rama prayed, he could not ask in the Basanta Ritu. It was a situation of emergency, and so he prayed to her in autumn, and that's why it came to be called the Akala Bodhan, which now is celebrated as Durga Puja, the seeking of Devi's blessings, the celebration of Durga Puja. The fourth hymn is what I conclude with, as this is also a celebration of Durga Puja. Every story, the three stories of the Devī-Mahātmyaṁ that were narrated by Maharishi Vedas are associated with the hymn. And in conclusion, in the end of all of this, is the fourth hymn, which we often hear in the evenings. And I'm reminded of the Ramakrishna Math also, where we hear it. The prayer goes thus. Sarva Mangala Mangalye Shive Sarvata Sadike Trayambake Gauri. Sorry. Sarva Mangala Mangalye Shive Sarvata Sadike
Sharanye Trayambake
Sharanye Trayambake Gauri Narayani Namostate. That is right. So that is the conclusion. The words literally mean that the mother and all of her qualities abide everywhere at all times. And all we have to do is remember. And one of the ways of remembrance, of bringing her in abidance through memory, is through stories, Katha Vachan. The Katha Vachak is really privileged to get an opportunity to remind herself and the Shrota of Devi's glory. Thank you. Namaskar.
Namaskar. Thank you very much, Deepa ji. Really very much. Your 30 minutes you are taken, and the flow of the story is really amazing. And thank you very much to Deepa Kiran. And when you explain about that, I found three things. One is Vak Shakti and Vak Chaturya. Again, already explained in the controversy, Vak Chaturya, because the way of expression is the most important, because the way of expression and adding with the nati also involved, and adding with the music also is involved. So it is like a multi connectivity you are done with the stories. And really thank you very much, Deepa Kiranji.